Welcome back to Lady Dynamite Creates. This is Tiffany, and today I have a very special surprise. I'm going to be unboxing this M1 laser engraving and cutting machine from xTool. I've actually never used one of these before, so I'm very excited to jump in and see what it's all about. With that said, I have worked with 3D printing machines in resin and in filament, and I've also used a Cricut before too, so I'm hoping that the learning curve won't be too bad for me.
So enough talking, let's get this baby unboxed. The M1 came extremely well packaged, and this box was actually inside another shipping box too. It's reassuring because I always worry about things getting damaged in shipping. It just happens way too often. Getting this set up was extremely easy, and I honestly expected it to be harder than it was. There's a vent in the back that helps pull out fumes, so I'm attaching the vent cover that will attach to the hose. It just simply screws on. The hose itself attaches with a spring that feels kind of like an embroidery hoop. The M1 also comes equipped with a blade cutting attachment. It very easily just slides out, it's held in place by magnets, and you change the blade in this just like you do with the Cricut by pressing down on the plunger at the top, dropping the blade down in it, and then it sucks it right back in. Then you slide it underneath, right back into the hole, and the magnet holds it in place on the head. Finally, the last thing to do is to plug it in and turn it on. And we have success! Now let's get the premium material package open, and there was so much stuff in here. There was a ton of wooden tags, and there was a canvas tote, a sheet of walnut plywood, and a ton of craft paper. There was an assortment of transparent PVC sheets in all different colors. There was a sheet of basswood plywood. There was a wooden phone stand, as well as an assortment of dog tags. There was a necklace set, a metal card holder for holding business cards. There were 2 stone coasters as well as 2 wooden coasters. There was an assortment of metal business cards in all sorts of colors, and a huge stack of white sticker paper. There were several sheets of the PU leather, as well as a pack of laser marking paper. The marking paper helps the laser to leave behind a black mark rather than just a difference in texture to the surface. There was also so much vinyl, both heat transfer and the self-adhesive kind. The sheer amount of stuff included was just insane. There was also risers for when you're working with thicker materials. The bottom of the machine removes so that you can raise it up. There were several cutting mats for when you're working with the blade attachment. There was also a rotary accessory included for engraving cylindrical objects. This way it rolls the object around and keeps the surface perpendicular to the laser head. The setup for that tool is a little bit more involved, so I haven't tackled that yet, but be sure that's going to be in the near future. So now let's get started on our project. The first thing I'm going to do is create a certificate of authenticity for my latest doll, Brawly Pop. I'm doing this in grayscale because it helps me to see the levels of contrast. One very important thing I noticed was I did need to make sure that the image is the exact size as what I want to actually cut. So I designed a layer mask that actually has a transparency around the corners, and I've applied these to my layers so that you can still see the transparency around these. This way when I bring it into the file, it cuts correctly. Otherwise, it would have just cut a complete square and not this rounded edge. Now let's jump over to the machine and get set up. I'm first going to lay down these triangle prisms to raise the material off the bed. Back over at the computer, we've opened up xTool Creative Space, and you can see the camera is showing us exactly what's on the bed of the M1. I made sure that our settings are to laser flat and select the type of material we're working with, as well as measuring the thickness and telling it that the height is raised because we're using the triangle prisms. We insert our image and I select it and tell it to outline. I set this outline to 0 because I want it to be exactly around my piece. This is what's going to cut this out. I make sure my outline is set to cut and my image is set to engrave. Then I tell it to process. When it's done processing, we have the option to frame. And framing allows us to look at exactly where it's going to be cutting and engraving all our piece of material. And here you can see the machine outline and tell me exactly where it's going to be working. Once framing is complete and I'm satisfied, I tell it to go ahead and start doing its thing. I wanted to take a moment to thank all of my friends over on Patreon: B. Burnett, Oak Magpie, Deborah Sweeney, Beck's Mini Studio, Angel Book Walter, Angelica, Don Magana, Thury, Stormcrow Studios, Amber S., Delicious, Camille, Jennifer Medina, and Kitsy. If you are interested in becoming one of my Patreon supporters, please be sure to check out the link in the description box below. I really love how this came out, but now it's time to do the back. I've placed the material back inside the machine, and I did make a mistake and I shouldn't have used the prisms for this because there was a bit of rocking when it was cutting. But now because we're working with a smaller piece, we do need to be more careful on placement. It needs to be exactly where we want it. I did decide to put it a bit higher than I had originally planned, so that's why it's shifted up like it is. And here it is all finished. I think it turned out super cute. Next, I'm going to try to put a Hellspells logo onto one of the metal business cards that can be included with Raleigh Pop. I used paper tape to secure it to the bed of the M1 to make sure it doesn't shift around. Once we're back over at the computer, I'm going to set all of my parameters to the correct settings and then get this one started as well. Here you can see I've made a bit of a mistake. I wasn't thinking about the difference in the engraving with wood and the engraving with metal. With metal, it's either on or off. With the wood, you can actually shade the image and make some areas darker. So now you can't really see your helmet. So I do go into Photoshop, do some editing to this, and give the helmet just an outline with a wide infill, and then retry it. The second result is much better. Now I'm going to test out the cutting attachment. I'm first placing down the cutting mat, and it's actually sticky on both the front and the back side. This way it sticks to the bed of the M1 and also holds the material. Back on the computer side of things, I just made sure to select the correct parameters for the things that I was cutting. When the machine was finished cutting, I pulled the vinyl off of the cutting mat. And it did stick really well, so I had a bit of trouble pulling it off. I should have actually pulled the mat completely out and then removed it. I also had my settings a little bit too high for cutting pressure, and so it cut straight through my clear side as well. Now I'll weed away any of the vinyl that's not part of my design. One thing that I found that I really like about this machine, especially in regards to using the blade attachment, is I can pick and choose where I'm cutting. So you always have those odd scraps of stuff that you're working with. Because it's taking a picture and showing you what is on the workspace, you can take your artwork and put it exactly where it needs to go. So if you've got this tiny irregular piece of vinyl and you still want to get a cut out of it, you can this way. I always find that I have so much vinyl waste because by the time I cut it to have straight edges to be used with my Cricut, it just won't work anymore. When I begin cutting out the pink design, I'm making sure that I adjust the pressure so that the blade tool doesn't cut all the way through the plastic this time. When it's all finished, I pull it out matte and all, and this made for a much easier time with removing the vinyl from the sticky side. Just that slight adjustment in pressure made sure that it cut all the way through the vinyl but not through the backing, and it came out perfect this time. And I don't know about you, but I find weeding vinyl super satisfying. I like trying to see how much I can pull off in one go. Now with the designs all cut, I'm going to heat transfer this onto the vinyl tote that came with the materials package. I set the temperature on my heat press to 340 degrees, and I'm first going to give the bag just a quick press just to flatten it out and get rid of any bumps. I align my first layer of the design, and I place down some Teflon sheeting to help protect the fabric. I close this up and let it press for 12 seconds, and then I release it, and I peel off the plastic protective coating while it's still warm. I finish up by applying my other layers as well as a design to the back side of the bag too. I wanted to share a few final thoughts on the M1. So far, I really love this machine. It has Wi-Fi capabilities, and I'll eventually be able to just send files over the network to it. However, it only receives 2.4 gigahertz, and unfortunately my router system has proven problematic, and I need to sweet talk my wonderful, wonderful husband into troubleshooting it for me. It's a very compact machine, and it was easy to move around. I was able to carry it on my own, no problem. Setup was really simple. It also has a much more affordable price point than a CO2 laser. It really is a great hybrid machine for a hobbyist. If you are interested in purchasing an M1, I have left some affiliate links down in the description box, so be sure to check those out. I wanted to say thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Remember, always be creating!